Good afternoon, Nkosi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Amanda Murray. How are you, Amanda?
I'm good. How are you, Nomza?
Good, good. Thank you.
You just need to be closer to your mic because you're fading in and out.
Okay, I think I'm gonna need to put my earphones on because the mic is just there.
There we go.
Yeah, so can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So our topic today is developing learning mindset. So developing learning mindset often refers to as growth mindset that involves cultivating a set of beliefs and attitude towards learning that emphasize continuously improvement, resilience, and the understanding that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. So today we're going to share some guides that you can use to develop your mindset. What do you think about the topic, Amanda? I know Grant chose the topic, but he's not here today.
Well, I think this is a really important topic because whenever we approach anything, we really have a choice on how we decide to show up in it. And if we already have a negative attitude towards it, then that's not a learner mindset, is it? So we can like already set up blocks along the way before we even get started if we show up in a space with that mentality of like, well, this is stupid, or I'm already not good at math. Why should I do this type of thing? And because I'm a teacher, I think a learning mindset is really, really important. And I know for kids when they come into school, like if you have had a rough morning and you fought with your little brother or you fought with your sibling and you come into school and you're just already angry, you don't have like that learner mindset as you're showing up in the classroom. And so I always think about it is like, how are we showing up each day, and then like what sort of like blocks along the way might have shown up to allow for kids not to be able to show up as their best selves or the best version of themselves that morning. And so learner mindset, I think it has a lot to do with like all aspects of our life. So did I have a healthy breakfast? What is it that I'm reading? What sort of shows am I watching on TV? All of those things contribute to the way you think and the way you show up. And so a learner mindset really is like approaching things with curiosity and approaching things with an open mind and approaching things with that like creative spark that we hope that people like look for when they're learning new things. And I think that whatever it is, sometimes people think that learning is just like from K to 12 and then you're done and then you never are learning again. But really, we have like a lifelong learning. I learn new things each and every day. Even yesterday, I was staining my fence in my backyard and I was like listening to a podcast and just thinking about how many like amazing things you can learn just by being out there on whatever. So I'm always learning, like I'm either reading or I'm listening to podcasts or I'm doing something that allows me to learn and expand and think critically about things. And so I think a learner mindset really is being open to exploring and being willing to explore and be willing to be curious about things that I might not have been curious about before. And that curiosity really just drives our ability to be creative and to show up differently and to really like be inspiring. And so that's kind of what I think about when I think about developing a learner mindset is like there's a bunch of different things that we have to like set up. It's not just one thing. It's making sure like we're looking at everything holistically.
I agree with you actually, Amanda. We are forever learning. Is my mic okay? Uh, I don't know why though. Yeah, we are forever learning everything, and I like it when you say set up blocks. We set up blocks along the way by saying we can't do this, we can't do that, and you even made like an example with a child, like school children. when they make a decision that I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. I've seen it with my children as well. Once they make a decision that they're not good at something, that becomes their character, it becomes a reality. So if you change your mindset, and because everything is all about learning, and um, I'm not sure, Amanda. This is the mic that I'm using. So then I have to connect it with my ears. Let me check my output because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's
Better when
not.
you're holding it. It's better when you're holding it there.
Are you kidding me?
I couldn't, you just fade in and out constantly.
Okay, so when I'm holding it, is it's better.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I've got a stand, but the stand does not go to my thing because it's meant to pick the sound everywhere. It's
It's
my
not.
surrounding. So which one is my output here? Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to play with this after we finish. I'm not touching my audio. I think my output is different. Yeah, so it's really important to actually uh, understand the growth versus a fixed mindset, growth mindset versus a fix, and the beliefs that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. So that that works. Like there are some people like when you talk to them, they're like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm not good at this." I'm like, "Have you ever tried it?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "I just know I'm not that kind of person." So I think that's what blocks we set up. What do you think? Have you got friends like when you talk to them, they're like, "No, I'm not that kind of a person. I don't think I can do this."
Yeah, 100%. I think that there's people who, once you get to a certain age, they'll like automatically just think like, oh, I'm not good at that. I can't do that. And yet we expect children to be willing to like try, right? And so I always say to parents, like, we need to be able to try new things because we're expecting our kids to try new things. So if you're never trying anything new, then but you're expecting your kid to be like willing and confident trying something new, we actually have to show our kids that we're learners too, right? And so that we're willing to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable, right? Because trying something new that you might not be good at really puts us in this vulnerable position. And so if we're not willing to try something new, our mindset is blocked somewhere along like trying something new is scary, right? And so if trying something new is scary, where is it in your life that that's shown up? And then where is it in your life where trying something new has actually been a really good experience? So I want you just to like think about that for a second. When is it that you like tried something new and it was like a really good experience for you in the long run? And I know like when you start something, it's really, really hard. I remember like learning how to snowboard. And the first day that I ever went out and I tried to learn how to snowboard, I was lifeguarding at the time. I was like 19 years old. And I went back to work the next day and I could hardly walk. And I said to the like other lifeguard, I was like, nobody better drown today because I can barely walk. Because I was snowboarding yesterday and I'm so sore and I fell so many times and I hurt so much. And then eventually I kept trying and I kept going and I kept going. And now it's like one of my favorite things to do in the world. But I remember the first couple times doing that, it being so hard and me being in so much pain, so much that I was like, nobody can drown today because I really cannot swim and save you. Like, I don't think I can do it. And so that's something that we have to think about when we are approaching something new. It's not going to be easy. When we learn how to ride a bike, we have to like fall a bunch of times before we actually get it. And then once we get it, it's easy. And there's that saying like it's just like riding a bike. Once you know how, you always know how. And if for whatever reason that seems to be the case, but if we're not even willing to try to get on that bike and to start, then we're never going to have that experience of it like getting easier as you go. And I know when I very first started teaching, I worked hours and hours and hours and hours and hours because I was trying to learn everything and be the best at what I was doing, and making sure my lesson plans were perfect. And I had to like learn all of the curriculum. And now that I've been teaching for like 16 years or more than that even, I I don't worry about those things because I know that I could go into a classroom and probably teach for an entire week without having to like plan anything, because I could just pull it out of my head and be like, oh, we're going to do this, or we're going to focus on this, or what is it that's the topic today? And I just like know what it is that I need to do, or know where to look to get something information quickly, or know how to engage the kids in something meaningful that could take an entire week to fill up. And I wouldn't really have to stress about my planning so much. But in the beginning, when I was just learning, I spent so many hours learning how to be good at this, right? And that's why when you are learning something new, if you approach something with a learning mindset, expect it to be hard at the start. Expect if everything was easy, we'd all be really great at everything, and then we'd all be in the Olympics, right? But we're not, because there are things that some people are really willing to learn and continue learning and show up each and every day and practice for hours and hours and hours, that other people just don't have that motivation to do in that specific area. But there might be something else that you do have that spark inside of you that you really want to do. And I think the biggest sometimes roadblock is just beginning, because we're scared, or we have that mindset of like, I don't want to do this, or I'm not going to be good at this, so why even bother trying? And I wish that we as a whole didn't have that roadblock, that we were more willing to step out there and try, because that really is a learner mindset. And I know that there's so many people out there who, for whatever reason through school, have blocks in their learning where they don't want to engage, or they're scared of engaging because of some sort of trauma that's happened in their past.
I agree with you. It's so scary though to just step into the unknown. It is so scary. But I think once you close your eyes and say, you know what, I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I'm just gonna go anywhere. And I think in the end, you just get on with things. And I also agree with you that when you say, like, I'm working with Unisa, and one of the guys for this dating show, they want everything to be perfect when I listen to them. But then the producer, this guy, he is the producer. He was like, I need to speak to Nomsa. We need to arrange, because for them, they just want everything to be perfect. So it's like, I need to speak to Nomsa. We pick up the days and then we do the shooting. I was like, I like this guy. He was like, I'm very, very busy. So I need to speak to her and we can arrange the date. So I was like, you know what, he's in the game. He does not want things to be perfect. He knows that perfection exists in the dictionary, but everything else you got to go for it. So I think once you want to do something, like, you have to look at everything life as whatever you do as a stepping stone to actually do whatever you got to do, and approach every opportunity as it comes. Um, uh, Martin, would you like to open the door? Because these children are not going to stop buzzing. Sorry, Amanda. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, I think like what you were saying, that obviously you've hired somebody in a certain area where they're an expert in that, right? And so I think when you want to learn something new, it's really good to go to experts. And that is part of developing a learner mindset, is being willing to go and ask for help in certain areas where you might be struggling, right? Because you want to learn from people who actually really know what they're doing and who are really great in that specific area. I know there's like this meme that I've seen on different social medias before, and it's like they didn't want to pay a contractor to like do the extension on their house, and they're like, so my husband just like YouTubed it, and like this is where we're at, and it's like all crooked and like not done properly, and it's like has tarps over the whole thing. And so like we saved a ton of money, right? Because we did it ourselves. And it's like, well, no, you hire people and you pay them because they are experts in those areas, and it's going to save you a lot
Don't
of time
make it worse.
in the end. Yeah, don't make it worse unless you like really truly know what it is that you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to do this like makeshift version of it, and you're not going to be happy with the results in the end. And I know even for myself, there's times where you like have to hire an expert. Like, I'm not an electrician. So if I want something done in my house that involves electricity, I'm going to go and ask somebody that I know that's their expertise and be like, hey, can you come and do this for me? But if I wanted to learn how to do it, I definitely wouldn't just YouTube it and like learn it myself. I would go and I would be willing to learn how to do this and then become an expert and learn from somebody who's the best in that area. And so when we have a learner mindset, it's really about being willing to seek out those people who are really great in those specific areas and be willing to look at different angles of different things and being willing to be like, hey, I don't know this yet, but I want to learn more about it. And so I'm willing to explore those options. And sometimes I think we just get stuck, right? We get stuck. We're not willing to, or we just go back to those same patterns and habits that we've always had before. And I really think the hardest part in anything that you want to learn is just beginning. And then the second hardest part is consistency and making sure that you're willing to consistently pursue that. So if you look at like Duolingo, there's an app or you can learn different languages. And I know people who actually like really engage in Duolingo and are really motivated to learn. There's like daily practice, and you can show, and it like tracks how many days that you've practiced it and you're willing to actually engage and learn. There's so many times in my life where I'm like, I'm going to learn Spanish. And then I like get really motivated at the start, and I like buy a book and I stick stickers on different things to help me learn how to do it. And then I fall off the wagon and I don't get very far because of that lack of consistency. So developing a learner mindset, I think there's a couple of really big things that you have to consider. One is like, make sure you start. And then number two is make sure that whatever it is that you really want to learn, that you're consistently pursuing it. Because without consistency, it's just like an idea that's like one blip in time. And so when we're really consistent at whatever it is that we want to learn, that's when we really become better at it. And so when I look at kids with like math always seems to be like a big struggle for some students, or others is reading. And the more we're willing to engage in that particular area and have the mindset of like, I'm going to learn this and I want to learn this and I have the capacity to learn this, then kids are more willing to engage and learn it. But if they just automatically have that, like, I suck at math, my mom sucked at math, my dad sucked at math, like, we're just not a math family. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that as a teacher over the years. And I always say, like, well, have you like really engaged in it? Have you really like spent the same amount of time learning math as you do something else that you are really passionate about? Well, maybe not. And maybe it's just that you just need to spend that little bit more time and learn those like one or two little tricks to see the patterns, so that math actually is really like quite easy in lots of areas, especially in what I teach anyways, because I teach like grade 5 math. So it's like not that hard. That it's all about patterns, really. And once kids see the patterns, and once you show them the patterns, and they are, it's all of a sudden like this light bulb comes on and they're like, oh, it's a pattern, it's really easy, right? And once they get it, but they have to be willing to engage to that point where they see the pattern and they practice the pattern. And then once they see the pattern, they start to see patterns everywhere, and they start to see math in all the different actual real life areas of their lives, right? And so I think sometimes when we're developing a learner mindset, you have to also be willing to look at things from a different perspective and to have multiple entry points where maybe I tried it this one way and that didn't work. So now I'm going to try it this other way and see if that works. And if it doesn't work that way, then I'm going to try this other way and see if that works. Because I know for myself, when I'm teaching and specifically teaching math, I'll be like, okay, try multiplication this way. Like, does this strategy work for you? And then some kids it really works for, and they're like, yes, I get it. And then other kids are like, this makes no sense. And I'll be like, wait, let's try this. So try it this way and see if this makes sense to you. And then eventually we find some avenue that works for them and that they actually get it. And so, but we have to be willing to explore all of those avenues in order to find that space where it starts to click and we start to make connections to where it shows up in our real lives. And when we do that, that's when we build those neural pathways and we strengthen those neural pathways in order to actually truly learn something. And so it's like building those neural pathways. And when we learn about neural plasticity, if you've done any research on that, it's really about constantly building those neural pathways, and we can learn anything that it is that we want when we consistently build those neural pathways in those specific areas. And so before, when we used to think like, oh, they're just not a math person, that's not necessarily true. We just need to build the neural pathways that are going to hone that skill. And so whatever it is that you want to learn, it's really like building neural pathways and honing that skill and being willing to be consistent in that area.
I agree with you, Amanda. It's actually consistency is very, very, very important. And also, you said to make sure you start. I think that is very, very important to start somewhere. And that is power. When we start, when we say we're going to do something and you just do it and you just learn it. And also we learn different as well. If you look at like when you're at school, like you mentioned that children, they learn in so many ways. Sometimes some they'll be like, I'm not good at this. But if you give them a different introduction to say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They get excited that actually is easy. And that's how even us adult, that's how we learn. Like myself, there are some things that I just click, they just click in my head. I will just go and do it. But there are some things that sometimes I need to think about. I need to think. And if I'm in my own space and just alone and just think, then I'll come up with a plan and just do it. And mostly like sometimes if I'm under pressure, that's where was somebody like puts a demand and say, can you do this? And then I look at their character and I'll be like, I ask them questions. They end up giving me the answers that I need. Like if I need to do something, and I will say this person is actually pushing me to do something, and I'll be like, okay, I don't know the answers, but you want me to do it because you have the answers. But if you give me an idea, then I'm going to ask you some questions to give me some ideas so I can do it. So, or that's how I learn sometimes with things. I think we all learn in different ways. And if we just like persistence, uh, like put an effort in some things. And also we learn from criticism as well, accept constructive feedback as a tool for improvement as well is very, very important. I like people who criticize me. Honestly, if I'm around the people that, there are people who are really critics that they want to hurt you. They're not criticizing you because they want you to get better. They are criticizing you because they think they're better than you. But you find these people that criticize you because they want you to be better. They want you to show up different. So I like those people that criticize me for me to show up different. So that's where I actually learn, because when somebody give us a constructive criticism, it means that they see good in us and they want us to develop more. So, what advice can you give someone out there, Amanda, who would like to do something, would like to start something, but they keep talking about it and they have no motivation to do it? They just like a procrastination and things like that. What advice that has worked for you that you can actually share with them and say, listen, guys, I've done this and it's worked. You are an artist. So,
I just want to go back to that topic of constructive criticism and feedback, because I
Yeah.
think that's really important to be willing to have that, especially as a learner, because we all are constantly learning whether we want to be or not. But one of the things that I remember like saying to my students a number of years ago, and I do often say something along these lines on a regular basis to them, but I at the time I was doing my master's degree, and I was marking a bunch of their stories, and I brought in a paper from that I'd written for my professor. And I said, hey, like grade 3, I think I was teaching grade 3 at the time. I said, hey, so I want to show you something because I've been writing and I got feedback on my work. And this is what my professor said to me. Even though I got an A on this research paper that I did, they still gave me feedback. And so no matter how good it is that my project is, I still got feedback on it as a writer, because even though it was I did a really good job on this, there still is things that I could improve on. So no matter where you're at in your writing or whatever it is that you're doing, I'm always going to give you some sort of feedback in order to make it better. And it's not because I like think that you're terrible or that it's actually because I want you to grow. So every time that you get something back from me, there's going to be some sort of constructive feedback on how to make it better. And when you open it up like that, they go like, oh, that's good. Like the feedback isn't about like telling you what you did wrong. It's about how I'm going to push you in order and guide you to be better. And when I approached it from this position of like, even my work, no, as an adult, that I'm doing a master's degree still gets feedback and still gets, hey, you could do this better or you could do that better. And I even got it like a really good mark on this project. It still has room for improvement. Any book that I've ever written still has room for improvement. There's definitely things that I could do better in any of the books that I've published so far. But at some point, you just have to be like, okay, it's not perfect, but it's done. So I'm just going to put it out to the world and see what happens. And I look at the books that I've written and the growth that I've made in my writing journey, that's something that's really, really important too, to me to see, is that I'm constantly improving. My first book wasn't perfect when I put it out to the world. Neither was my second book, neither was my third book, and so on. But I'm willing to continue to try and continue to grow and continue to learn so that I can put more content out to the world. And so I think sometimes as perfectionists, so many of us struggle with that perfectionism. And I know for myself, I'm very, very OCD and that I have to have everything like in line. And right now I'm off. I'm a teacher, so it's summer here in Canada and I don't have to like work right now, but I'm staining my fence and in my backyard. And so I have and my deck. And so everything's in the middle of the backyard. And I'm like, it looks like the worst, like trailer trash, like just everything's in a pile in the middle of the yard. And I'm like, so it drives me crazy because I'm such a perfectionist and I want everything in its perfect spot. But sometimes it's that journey of messiness that gets us to the point of completion, right? So sometimes things have to get messy first in order for the end result to be something beautiful. And so I know for myself, even in this like painting scenario where it looks really messy right now, but my end result, when I get the entire yard painted and the entire fence stained and my garden box stained and everything else, it's going to look really beautiful. But I have to spend this little bit of time being messy and being okay with that mess in order to have a positive result in the end. So sometimes when we're learning something new or we're starting something new, it looks really messy at the beginning. But then we begin to navigate it and we keep taking steps forward in order to get us to where we want to be. And it can be something as simple as like even cleaning out your closet. When you clean out your closet, it always looks messier partway through than it does when you get it at the final point of completion. But you have to continue like organizing and reorganizing until you get it clean again. But when you start, I know for myself, when I clean out my closet, I literally take everything out of the closet. And then I like look at every single piece of clothing and I go like, is this something that I want to keep that I'm going to actually wear, or is it something that I need to donate? And I go through every single piece. And then when I finally finished it all, it's beautiful. But if somebody walked into my house when I'm in the middle of like a closet organization, they'd be like, "Oh, are you a hoarder?" Like, you can't just leave it in the middle of that because it gets messy before it gets better, right? Even though it looks kind of okay right now, when I really want to, if I really want to dive deep into that area, it's going to look better in the end, but I have to be willing to get messy first in order to fix it. And that's something that I think even my daughter does that. The other day I was out with some friends and she had a friend over and then her friend left. And I was like, oh, I don't want to leave her alone for too long. She's 13, so she's old enough, but I don't like leaving her for more than a couple hours at a time. And I was gone for about 6 hours, but her friend had been here for part of the time. And when I came home, she's like, I cleaned out my closet, Mom, look. And she had reorganized everything, like color coded it all and reorganized it all. And I was like just having that time to sit and get messy and then reorganize is sometimes something that we really truly need. And so that like downtime of being bored and being like, what is it that I'm going to do? That's an opportunity for learning. And sometimes I think we fill children's time up so much with all of these things that we don't actually give them that time for just like natural learning. And that's something that I think is really important, is that kids need some downtime to be bored so that they can have time for like actual, just genuine learning and doing something that is going to get maybe messy at first and then have a really good result in the end. And so if you are somebody that wants to be a lifelong learner or be willing to like develop that learning mindset, you have to be willing to like let things get a little bit messy, because any challenge that you come up to is going to have some messy things, but it's also going to have good results at the end. It's like whenever I go hiking, the whole hike, I'm like, this is the worst. Why did I think this was fun? Like, this is straight up. Who picked this hike? And then when we get to the top, I'm like, oh, this is so wonderful. Let's do it again next weekend. Right. But there's that like whole part of like getting to the top that is a struggle. And in that struggle, we get into our mindset of like, well, whose idea was this? I don't think this was my good idea. Like, maybe I should go back. And maybe I should just like try this hike another day. But when you actually persevere to the very end, it's worth it in the end. And so I always laugh because my friends send me memes like that because I love to hike, and it's almost every single time. Every single time I hike, halfway through the hike, I'm like, oh, this was the worst idea ever. And then I get to the top or I get back and I'm like, oh, that was a wonderful day. But it's that journey of challenge that we need to be able to persevere in. I think, is there anything in your life that shows up like that, even when you're like, there's something that you want to do and you think it's a good idea, and then you start and it's really hard and you're like, oh, this was not a good idea. And then you actually keep going, and in the end result, it actually is like that. I feel like that was really, really worthwhile.
Yeah, I know I've been into that situation. I don't know. Today seems to be people are coming in buzzing. I don't know why. Okay. Um, what is he checking? Yeah, I've been into situations myself where I give myself a challenge, like I'll say yes to something, and I'll be like, uh, what's now? Hold on, Amanda, do you want to take over?
Okay. So I hope that if there's anybody who has like a learner mindset or who wants to start something new, that it is that you're willing to be able to put yourself out there and get into that learner space and be willing to be a learner. And while we were talking earlier, I actually just like searched tell me keys to developing a learner mindset, just to see if there was any topic that we missed. And basically all of the topics that came up when I did this quick search, we've talked about, which is like being curious at the start. So being genuinely willing to learn new things and start asking questions about like why, and being able to engage in that area, whatever it is that you want to learn, for an extended amount of time. So that's that persistent piece. And then embracing the challenges along the way is one of the other things that is key when I did this quick search while we were talking. And then another piece that we've also talked about too is being open-minded and being willing to consider new perspectives and new ideas, and not always just, if we do the same thing always the exact same way and expect different results, like that's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. So, and I can't remember who quoted that, but it is I'm paraphrasing that quote of being willing to try something different and hear different points of view. And then self-reflect. That's something that we didn't really talk about as a, a learner, and having a learner mindset is being willing to just self-reflect and celebrate your learning along the way. And so whenever, like, set a goal, and then once you get to that goal, celebrate it. And it could be something as simple as like, day one, I'm going to do this. And when you do that, give yourself like a mini high five, like check that box, write it down. And then see if you can do it for a week. And when you've done it for a week, do like something special for yourself. And then when you do it for a month, do it again and celebrate it. So like celebrate your persistence and your journey along the way, because I think so often many of us don't actually celebrate our wins, and it is really important to embrace those wins, but also embrace our failures as well. So begin to view our mistakes as a learning opportunity and not actually a negative, because when we fail at something, there's a lot of talk in the education world around like failing forward. And when we fail forward, we're actually learning more than we would have if we would have just got it right the first time. And so looking at our quote unquote failures as actually a really great learning opportunity. And when I talked about this before, I talked about this event that I learned about where it's called Fuck Up Nights, and it's actually entrepreneurs who go out and they talk about their biggest failures in their business and how that allowed them to grow and become the success that they've become. And if you look them up, they have these events all over the world. And I thought like, wow, so many people are afraid of failure, and yet all of these super successful entrepreneurs are actually learning to embrace failure and sharing those failures so that other people can build that confidence to be willing to fail forward. And I think that's something that we can develop from a very young age if we choose to foster that. And then, like Gnomes said before, get feedback from, and constructive feedback, right? And don't let somebody's like negative attitude towards you affect your willingness to learn and be a learner in whatever area it is that you want. I know for myself, when I said I wanted to do my master's degree, my father was like, are you going to make more money? And I was like, not unless I become a principal. And he was like, well, that you don't want to be a principal, so what's the point in doing that? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to not listen to you, because I actually just love learning and I want to do this. And I'm so grateful that I did actually completely ignore him and go and do my master's degree, because it gave me the confidence to be able to build a website for my business. It gave me the confidence to be able to write a book and know enough about technology and be able to embrace technology in the classroom in a way that I wouldn't have before. And also, it actually shifted my perspective so much on like where I used to think I needed to be on the cutting edge of technology to be a really good teacher. It actually shifted it to like, how can I spark kids' own unique creative gifts and allow that to guide them, and then use technology to enhance their gifts and also be able to share their gifts with the world, because with technology we have the tools to be interconnected in a way that we never have ever before, and we have opportunities to learn in ways that we never had before in history. And if we choose to embrace those tools, we truly can learn anything. And I think that's something that's really important. But so often we're not using the technology as a tool for continuous learning. We're using it to zone out and be mindless rather than mindful. And so whenever people talk about like how much time is it that you're letting your kids be on devices, I don't say it's not about the amount of time that they're on it. It's what is it that they're doing on those things. And are they learning? Are they being creative? Because if you're being creative on it, I don't care how much time you spend on it. Be creative. If you're just mindlessly being a mindless consumer of content, then yeah, get off of that thing because it's like just killing your brain. Whereas it also has the potential to inspire your brain. It's how you choose to use it and show up with it. Also just collaborate. Who can you collaborate with in whatever area it is that you want to learn in? And so collaboration, especially right now in the world, is there's endless opportunities because you can connect with people across the world, like I am with Nomza right now. I'm in Canada and she's in the UK, and we can connect at a different level because we choose to have that learner mindset, and we choose to continue to want to learn and grow. And we learn and grow from each other each and every week because we show up and we talk, and every single time I'm on here, I learned something new. So I think really it is about our connections, about our willingness to put ourselves out there and be able to fail forward. What do you have to say, Nomza?
Yeah, we show up for ourselves. So life is a journey, and it's a journey where we have to keep learning and we have to keep showing up. And also, like being a business, like running your own business is not an easy journey, but you get there in the end as long as you're willing to keep going and you're willing to get up when you fall. And also, like Amanda, you mentioned, the reflection on learning experience is very, very important. Take time to reflect on what you are learning after completing a task or a project. Analyze what worked well and what would be improved, and also adopting a positive mindset towards mistakes is very, very important, because people tend to see mistakes as a failure, or wow, they blame themselves, or they will do this. For me, what I do is whatever the mistakes that I have made in my life, I don't look at it as a mistake. I look at it as what did I learn from this thing? And I develop whatever mistakes you make, you develop a skill from it. So don't see it as anything that you do in life as a failure or anything. It's a learning, it's a skill that we are learning. And also, the only thing that you have to do is no matter what you do in life, make sure you surround yourself with people that can lift you up, because our environment and who we hang out with is very, very, very important. There are some people who you hang out with, they crush you. There are some people, when you hang out with these people, you grow, you become the best version of yourself. So that's what we need. We need that best version of ourselves, and just stay humbled. It's very, very important, and know that life is a game and it's a journey where we discover who we are every single day. Like Amanda said, she shows up here. I learn something every single day from the coaches, and that shows up. And sometimes, even when life it doesn't make sense, there is no day where I have ever thought twice of showing up at Ngosi talk shows. I just show up because I know that life is a game. If I fall, I know I have to pick myself up, and no one else will, guys, pick you up. So you have to have that courage, that determination, that mindset of, basically, you have to have the mindset you need to adapt is a mindset of an athletic, like a sports person, athletics. Like I'm an ex-professional footballer. For me, when I fall, I will hear like think about my manager. What would they say? We say, no, sir, get up now. Like when my life is covered with disappointment, with everything, I'll be hearing in my head is get up now. There is no time for crying for everything. There is no time for complaining, but there's time to analyze. There's time to reflect. There is time to get up. There is time to go running, start like go to the nature, think. It's time to think. It's not time to blame either. And those are the things that sometimes I tell God and say, God, is sometimes you're not fair, because sometimes he is not. When you are in pain, it's when he wants you to glorify, to give yourself that tap and say, you know what, I've done it. But I'll be like, sometimes I have to keep myself a tap and say, I've done it, or God, you have done it while I'm in pain. So all these things that you have to learn as a person if you want to grow, you have a learning mindset. I don't know if Amanda has anything to add.
No, I think this has been a really great topic today, just to think about how it is that we approach things, and are we already shut off before we even begin? I think that's something that you have to ask yourself. Are you already closed off before you even start? And if you are, and you've realized that, what is it that is in your life or has shown up in your past that has caused you to have that attitude towards it? So I know for whatever area of your life that it is, there probably is something that if you look back, you're like, oh, that's why I have that mindset towards that, right? If you really sat with yourself and became real about it. And so I think that whatever it is that you want to learn, start and then be consistent and set goals for yourself and have somebody give you feedback that you trust, not just anybody, because somebody that's just going to have a negative mindset to begin with isn't your person to check in with on your journey of growth. You want to check in with somebody that's actually doing real positive things and growing, not somebody who's stuck in a stuck mindset. And so when you are seeking feedback from somebody, my biggest suggestion for you would be to seek feedback from the right people, because not everybody's going to give you feedback that's constructive. They're just going to give you feedback that's destructive, and don't let destructive people stop you from what you want to do.
And we all, for me, also, what I'm going to leave you guys with is we are where we are because of somebody took us there. Wherever, if you look back in your life, like Amanda, she does what she does. She's a writer. She writes books. She does all this painting, drawing. Somebody took her there just by saying one word. And she believed that word, and it took her to where she is. Even myself, I look back, there are some people who entered my life and they said something, and that something ended up becoming a reality, ended up becoming an idea. That idea became something. So that's why it's very, very important to surround yourself with people that you know that they cheer you up no matter what. Because if you surround yourself with people that pull you down, guys, um, you're not gonna learn anything out of it. Other than that, you're just gonna become like them. I've seen people myself when I actually talk to people, they're like, I can't do this. Why do you want to do this? And they're not doing anything for themselves. So therefore they believe that hey, I cannot be who I want to be. But when I keep like keep going, I just find that one champion, that one person that believes in my dream, and that person is me and God, and the other person that will say, "Nomsa, you can do this." So and then you realize that we can actually get to where you need to be, regardless of what. Just keep going. Honestly, just keep going. And also, if you want to connect with us, guys, please go to website www.hseia.com. My old website is off. We have a new website, .coach. It's on all my social media. So please do connect with us on the website. Is either you want coaching or you want to connect for coaching with Amanda, please do connect through the website, or you can connect with Amanda through her social media or through my social media. On the website, there's a phone number there. You can ring the phone number. It will go to the office and just let them know what you're looking for. And if you're looking to connect with us, or just fill out the form, and I will get back to you. Either way, guys. And subscribe to our channel. And Facebook, we have 2 groups. Please do join the group and be part of the family. Amanda, do you have anything to say?
No, just have a wonderful day.
Have an awesome one. God bless. And